I have, I think, too many slides because I had a conversation yesterday with Christina and Dana, and then I understood what was your educational model. And then, of course, I changed some things in my presentation. By change, I mean I added things. So it could be a bit longer than an hour and a half, but I'll try to stick to the time box. Are you okay with my English?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Because the accent is South Slav, so sometimes it's hard to... Okay. People ask me why Angry Birds at the presentation, and at the beginning it didn't have much sense, some sense. I just love the picture. And then the organizations today, people say they're like, you know, people are unhappy there. And since I work in private sector, but also in public sector, I can tell and compare that people are really not happy. So they live under stress, and it's rarely seen happy people collaborating together, producing something valuable, and feeling motivated. It's really rare, at least from my experience. So that's why I wanted to use Angry Birds, but in terms of the Angry Birds as well, because they are like stubborn and they do achieve their objectives and they collaborate. And then it made more sense, even more sense, when I started working with the gaming companies. Because you know there is this gaming company, Rovio, they make Angry Birds game, and it seems that they're super agile. So they use agile methodologies, they have agile coaches. If you look at their job posts, it's always a Scrum Master or Product Owner, a role from the agile methodology. So I think it's an ongoing process of giving sense to this slide, and it will stay there probably forever. And then one more thing that just occurred this morning to me, because I talk about consensus a lot in agile methodologies, how you make an agreement. It's really important, an important topic in agile. How people collaborate together, how they make an agreement, how you estimate effort, business value, value at all. So I remember this movie, 12 Angry Men. Have you seen it? The 12 Angry Men? It's an old movie.
No.
Great. Angry Men, yeah. 12 personas enfadadas.
No.
It's como 12 people from the courts in the American movie, of course. And they have to decide if a kid is guilty of murder or not. So 11 say yes, and 1.
I think so, yeah.
So, okay, that's why they are angry men as well. And it adds value to my slide again. Let's go on. I will explain a bit what's my narrative, because I think it's important to understand what is the value I bring to agility per se, because it's very super specific, not that I wanted it, it just happened, but it's important. And I want to explain what is my target for today for you. So my narrative goes like this. I started like 20 years ago by teaching Spanish literature at the University of Belgrade, and I still do. So I still teach, not as much as I would love to, or not as much as I did, but I still teach. So I work with students, and nowadays I have Scrum teams. I don't have any more regular classroom. It's not, I don't teach actually. So I just do something else, you will see. Then from there, I went into policy making. Because nowadays I work as a vice president of a higher education reform experts team, which is the ministerial body. We are like the experts that work for the Ministry of Science, Education and Technological Development. And well, a lot of work there, but that's the policy making and helping with developing policies. And we also use sort of an agile tool to coordinate our activities, and I will show the slides. But then again, I went from agile in education to agile policy making, like creating agile pedagogy, creating agile educational models, and then from there into private sector. And now I have my own company. Hi.
The sponsor.
I have, so I took Agile from private sector into public sector before I ever worked in private sector. I just took it because I needed it. Then I brought it back to the private sector. So now I have my own private company that deals with agile organizational development and agile changing processes, and I work with big corporations and telecommunications, bank, insurance industries, and stuff like that. And what I can tell you, it's always the same. The problems are the same. Doesn't matter if it's a public sector. Details are different. You know, at a level of a detail, you have to customize. But the big problems, they're the same. And it's not because of the industry per se, or education per se, or other sectors. It's because the time we live in is different. And we all have to pay our tributes to that. So I will explain why in some slides. You can read, I think you have the articles, because I'm really lazy at writing. I don't like writing, actually. I'm more of an oral type. I like talking and communicating and integrating. And I think I like the pace of change in oral environment. I like coding while I talk. And I'm not good at taking my time, thinking, making it more complex, and then getting the feedback. No, that's not agile, by the way. So, but I I have some articles, and I explained what I mean by agility in education, and I'm always available online for any sort of question, and I will answer it as quickly as I can. So we say today, let's go to education first. We say today that education is not efficient nor effective anymore, and there is a general consensus around it. Doesn't matter what the country is or what the system is. It seems that there's something wrong with the pace. And there's something wrong with the way we treat students. Because these like two big pillars that we need to address somehow. But there is much more to it, not just that. And I add here, it's not efficient nor effective anymore. So my hypothesis is that it was. It's just not anymore. And I want to explain why. Why these companies decide to become agile. Like all these companies, some of them are really old in the market. This is like financial sector. Deutsche Bank, AXA Insurance, and so on. And these companies. You have technological companies which make sense. Like we will all say, like intuitively, okay, it makes sense because the changes are super fast, the technology is fastly changing everything, they need to be quick. Though we don't know exactly what does that mean, we do intuitively understand that. But why other companies? You know, like, why Lego? Why Bose? Why BBC? We'll explain. Agile gaming companies, they're all agile. All gaming companies are agile. And super complex. It's like the movie industry, you know, it's just gaming, but it's a complex industry. And I said too many times the word complex now. I think that's the main word, because we live in a complex time. And I will explain also why, because my PhD was something that helped me understand this, and I'll tell you. These are, for example, the Kanban users in education. When I say Kanban users, just don't pay attention. I will explain later on what Kanban is. But basically it means to me, when I see this, that they have some agile processes. I don't know what is the level of agility there when I see this, but I know that there is a certain level of agility. It can be bigger or smaller, but they use Kanban, means that they know what at least flow efficiency is, which is totally agile. It's an agile concept. You can see University of Virginia, I know that they're very agile. They have curriculum development for them is agile, for example. And then these are the industries. You can have a look, like software, of course, is the 25%. But then financial services, 12%. This is a survey on the agile use of the use of agile methodologies that was made last year. I can give you more context, but it doesn't matter. It's just to have sort of a insight in how widespread it is. In medical and entertainment, in sports as well. Government is pretty high here. And healthcare, of course, transportation, and stuff like that. What are the key reasons for agile adoptions? All those companies I've shown, and many more to come, what I say is this, like, we need to accelerate product delivery, like time to market. We need to make it shorter. Do you know why?
To meet the needs of the customer.
Because there, where the customer is, changes are huge and they're unpredictable. So we need to make sure that what we see today as useful is really useful when it comes to the customer. So that's the thing, that we need to shorten the time to market. Otherwise, we will probably fail, because what is changing over there is unpredictable, will effectively change. And it's valid for software industry, of course, for technology, because changes are really I mean, the mobile phones, we got them like what, 20 years ago, and where are we now? Then enhanced ability to manage changing priorities. That's the second thing they say they really, really, really need. That's why they introduce Agile. This means something peculiar. There is a lot of ideas we generate, like a lot of ideas. We have a lot of ideas. Everywhere I go, people have tons of ideas and not sufficient resources. And I think, I'm pretty much sure actually, that the ideas that we generate today, the number of ideas that we generate today, is bigger than the number of ideas we were capable of generating in like 50 years ago. The reason is simple. We have more information. Information is more cross-functional. You can put it together easily. We search it, optimize it, but then the resources are still pretty much the same, because humans still do all the job. Although we did some automation, but not enough. Then increase productivity, which is pretty much the same as accelerate product delivery, but we need to prioritize. You know, we need to shorten the time to market. Yes, we need to be more productive in those terms, but in order to have all these ideas we have when we start working, bringing us value, we need to say this one has more priority than the second one more priority than the third one. So we have to shorten the list of things we can do. And now we have that in our own personal lives. It's really, I don't know if you have the to-do list. I have to-do lists, and even though I know everything, I know this, I know it, I teach people how to do it. For me, it's super difficult. Because I have my to-do list, and I know that I have just to cut it and throw it away. I know that I have to do that. And it's difficult, because you want it all.
Yeah. That's a problem.
Especially if you are an achiever. If you're an achiever, and normally researchers are, then you really want it all. And you would rather go that way than just cutting it. This image there shows something that we suffer of today, which is amount of time we spend in being productive is really short compared to amount of time we spend in trying to figure out how to be productive.
That's reality.
Yeah.
And when we talk about that, we talk about some really important concept, which is flow efficiency. I will go back to that, but just to have a nuance of it. When we are flow efficient, we always work with all our resources on the most important thing. And we take care of not looking at the less important things. Because you know that with when you go to the shop, and I gather all the invoices when I buy something, especially shoes and stuff like that, because you never know. And then I used to gather them like, I don't have time, you know, I just go and I buy, and then I have a box where I put the invoice in. And when something happens to my shoes, which is in 3 months' time or 4 months' time, I have to go back and find it. That's super complicated then, because I have to spend at least an hour to go through all the unnecessary things I have there in order to find the necessary one. So nowadays, what I do, I throw it away immediately. I just keep the thing with the bigger value. That's it. So everything else, well, I take my risk. So I throw it away, and if something happens, I don't know it. I don't waste time. That's really painful as well. Now, talking about the pains. What are the pains? What are the pains that institutions or organizations or companies declare? And you can sense it when you enter the company. It's rapid changes leading to multitasking and loss of focus. You have it in education, you have it everywhere. Changes are super fast, and people are multitasking all the time, basically. There are slower environments and quicker environments, but you end up multitasking, being at your job, at your home, or at your home. So nowadays, we all know what multitasking is. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. You're right.
You're right.
Completely right.
And then it makes you feel stressful, and it makes you feel like losing focus, and that's okay. Let's say that psychology doesn't matter, or health. What really matters, I mean, health does matter, it was just ironic, is the excellence. So you can't get to the excellence if you can't have focus. If you lose focus constantly, there's no excellence. And you really need to provide time for that. And it's hard. Then they complain about unpredictability and bad planning. This is, I think, the major mindset shift. Because when the time was slower, planning was better. Because changes were slower and risks were less dangerous, less unpredictable. It might be that only big risks were like unpredictable, but the smaller ones were predictable. And people used to make plans. Like today, as an organization, as an educational organization, I know when I start teaching maths in 4 years' time, that knowledge is going to be relevant. So that's not anymore like that. And we know what's the reason, but then it really has some strong consequences on the way we plan. Because if I can't do that, if I can't say today when I start teaching maths, in 4 years' time, I have to say in 2 years' time, I have to say in a 1 year time, what is the time? What is the time? I can be sure that what I teach today is going to be relevant once the student finishes. Hard to say, really hard to say. So planning can't be much upfront planning. And you still need some context. You still need to know where do you go, what is the direction. But the planning, the precise planning, needs to be as short as possible. So that's a major shift, that's a major mindset shift. So we have to plan by vision for the big things, by vision, by big goals, but then precise details, we can't plan, let's say 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time, that's it. For example, do you know what you're gonna do in, let's say next weekend, unless it's a wedding? Then probably it won't be canceled. You don't.
Yeah.
Unless we have something fixed delivery date, like fixed date there, you don't know, because you don't plan up front anymore. That's the normal behavior today, because you don't know. You feel stressed. If you do plan, plans don't fulfill. You don't do that, you just do something else. And rational people, they don't make same mistakes twice or 3 times. So I can start planning, but if I see that it fails, then I will probably stop planning. I will do something else. So I would plan for today or for tomorrow, and then I will have some big chunks of desires or objectives or vision or whatever that I will want to keep in my timeline, just not to lose the focus. That's how I keep the focus. And then I will go from there to my daily planning. Did you get the point?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, and I will show it afterwards again. And then complexity, interdependencies, and vague requirements. They complain about that all the time. Everything is super complex. Because, you know, it's even more complex in software. Because there's, you know how it works. People from code needs to be merged. It's like 10 people writing the same text at the same time. We don't have solution for that. I mean, you do have solution for that with code writers nowadays, because they develop this continuous integration. I write the code, you write the code, 15,000 people write the code as Google does. And there's a machine that builds it up and says, wrong, good, bug, correct. If we write the same document, let's imagine we write a strategy or we write some research paper together. Let's say we use Google Docs. let's say we use Google Docs, at the same time, if you write at the same time, even if the technology can help us with that, what is the consistency of that? What is the consistency of the document? We need to check it afterwards. Who's going to check it afterwards? And stuff like that. So since we have to be quick, since we have to produce quickly, since we have to shorten the time of a planning and do a production, people need to know how to integrate without bugs. How to integrate and have a consistent product. And what is the main difference between a software production and any other product production that people make? Here you have automation. So there's a machine that takes care of the quality, consistency, and it's really, really a background thing. It's really below. It's an architecture, infrastructure. And when we, as people, make something, there's no machine. We have to find out how we make the thing we produce consistently. And let me tell you the story now about the healthcare systems, where we understand it easily. There's a book called This is Lean by a man, Modic, an excellent book, by the way, read it. Please, if you're gonna read one book, read that one. In terms of Lean and Agile. He explains extremely well what happens in the mindset, which is resource efficient, still efficient, but just resource efficient, and what happens today with the mindset that needs to be flow efficient. So, if you wake up one morning and you find out that something is wrong with you, you get scared, let's say, just like really scared, and you go to the medical doctor. In our systems, we have a sequential behavior. First you go to the general one, then you go back, then he sends you or she sends you to some specialist, right? According to what, you know, where the problem is exactly on the body. Then from there you can go further or you can go back, because, you know, you never know. Maybe it's too complex, so we don't know. And so on. I don't want to continue. You know what is the end. That's resource efficiency, because every doctor in that system does his job. The general one, he has a look at you and says, you should go there. The specialists, if it's like the radiologist, oncologist, whatever, they do their job. But they don't generate your diagnosis. So you are giving your time to the system. And it should be vice versa. The system should give the time to you being a product. You are a product. You have some fear and the need for diagnosis. So let's shorten the throughput time. Let's shorten the time from when the fear appeared to diagnosis. That's the main shift. So instead of going to, you know, sequentially to the doctors, you go to one center and all of them gather around you. And then they do their job, but they talk. They learn how to integrate. What? Diagnosis. And you are there. You can answer questions to all of them, right? So information is at one place. They're adding time. They won't be doing their job, their profession, 8 hours a day. They won't be doing the radiology, but they will work 8 hours a day. So that's called flow efficiency. Flow, because you're part of a flow. One product done, another product done, like the Toyota production system. So when they make cars, they make one car and they put it into the market. They don't make 100 cars with left wheels. They gather around one car, they put it together, they take it into the market. That's how they work. That's flow efficient. And the other thing is resource efficient. And it's a huge change of, well, unfortunately, what happens in our medical systems, yes, we do have one single point when we go to the medical doctors and they do gather around us, but it's too late, normally, usually. And we call it, I don't know, how do you call it here? We call it consilium. It's when you have some terminal illness or when you have some really bad illness, and then you go to the consilium of doctors that they decide what is going to be a treatment. But it's only when it's like super too late, when it's, do you agree? Do you have that?
Yeah. Same.
Yes.
At the end.
Yeah.
Maybe at the end, yes.
At the end?
It's really too late.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe they can still do something, but normally it is. And what we know for sure is two things. Why at the end? Why not before? And the second one, if it is at the end, then probably, that's the end. And it's more complex. Then you really need to integrate some super high special racket knowledge, to make it work for the person. So let's start as soon as we can to integrate information and produce something valuable. That's the point. So we talk about complex adaptive systems today. And there's an excellent book, the second one, if you read the first one, then the second one to read would be the Organize for Complexity. It's about that, how we organize for the complexity times, for the times that we live in today. They're not sequential. Low efficiency, too many ideas, reactive behaviors. Let's stay here a bit. So when you produce something and it's bad, the quality, because if it's not integrated, then it will probably have some consequences that you will have to repair. You can't leave it like that. Then what happens? If you look at the timeline, I produced here something that gives me consequences here that I have to work on. So if I continue producing here, the consequences will fall on my head. So I will have to be reactive to solve them and slower in innovation. So I can't keep on producing. So it's a curve that goes down. There's no help. Then you end up by no producing and no innovation. You're just reactive. And unfortunately, I do work, or did work in past with companies in that situation. So they produce something, and the quantity of errors is so huge that they have to stop producing in order to. That's really, the bankruptcy is, if you don't do something sensible there, there's no way to succeed. And lack of vision and innovation goes together with this. Though it's complicated even per se, because there is so many things. We produced so much, we invented so much. We are like invention machines, people, and we want more. But now it's hard, because now we have to collaborate. Because it's not enough to have it as one person. You need information from many, 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 many different fields, because all the simple things are made. Now we are making more complicated things, more complex things. So more people need to contribute to innovation than before. And it has been recognized by these innovation teams, by Google, by many other. They say like from 5 to 9 people can work together in a self-organized manner so that they can produce something innovative, It might be true, it might not be true, but let's say there's something in it when they talk about cross-functional, self-organized teams. They produce innovation better than one person. Maybe they don't produce vision. Vision somehow is still on one person. I don't know why. I read something. I didn't make up my mind. I don't have any sort of a conclusion. But it's something totally subjective. So it can't be shared even. You have to explain it to the people in order to make them make it. So vision is still with one person. So whatever you do, whatever the Agile is, whatever the outcome is, you have to have a person with a vision before anything else. Just remember the Apple example. They had everything. They had infrastructure. They had money. They had everything. One person goes away. They have to bring him back. That one person. One single individual. Okay, let's go on. So what does it mean to be agile? So it's not a simple structure. It's not a methodology, actually. It's not. It's a whole mindset. It's a perception of how we live today. And when I say that, what I'm saying is that what changed are values and principles. So the system of beliefs is changing. And the accent is on, has been changing for a while, and that period of time is long. So we can see what was still. Kids can't. I mean, my students, they can't see anymore the traditional structures, the old stuff. They see more the new, the agile thing. They see more the new values and new principles. But we still can, I suggest. Maybe even. No, but my generation, I mean, 40s and 50s, 40s, 30s even, they can because they know what was, what it looked like to live without computer. You know, and my nephew, no way of explaining. It's just like to explain to me that there was no phones or sound even, you know. So it's about values and principles and culture of achievement first, and then we'll go further. So let's go into a bit of history. So what happens is, at several places in the world, almost at the same time, different industries start developing something they call culture, philosophy, methods to help their industries survive. And not surprisingly, those industries are production, but not necessarily because there's something inherent to production that makes it not survive in fast-changing environments. It's because Toyota had problems. And Toyota, after the Second World War, because they didn't have much resources, they traveled all around the world. I know that they traveled even to find out how education works. They would send experts to all the places to gather information. And then they decided they wanted to have their automotive industry, but they didn't have any resources, so they had to invent a new model. And they invented this thing called lean, L-E-N, lean. At the same time, the software industry, there's a boom of software, it starts the boom of the software industry. They start talking about agile, the same thing. One for production, the other one for development. One for how to produce efficiently, the other one how to discover what to produce. What happened? Because when the software industry, there were 17 people, they had their own companies, and they discovered that the clients were not happy with them. Because if the client, late in the process of development, wants to change something, they can't help him, because everything was fixed up front. So if you come with the change requirement late in the process, there's no help. And it means that basically you as a vendor, you as a producer of the software for that client, ruin that client. And if something changes at the market, the client needs to be able to ask for change requirement. You have to allow that. Otherwise, you are behaving in a totally illogical way. Illogical, not rational. So what I decided was to gather and to come up with a new model, how they can work to delight the client and not to ruin the client. So that was one of the first principles, delight the client. And they produced, strange enough, values and principles. That's all they did, values and principles. So here are the values. And this is the biggest mind change that we are living in the whole civilization of the humanity. Probably the second one. Just you're special to know that. It's the second one. So it's we value more individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So we can have perfect processes, we can have great tools. If they're not individuals capable of interacting and integrating, no value. I mean, there's some value on the right, but the bigger value is on the left. And then working software, say working whatever, ice cream, whatever product is, working curricula, working student knowledge, doesn't matter. We value more something palpable, something that I can show as soon as possible, over comprehensive documentation. So I use my time to make it, not to document it. I do make some documents, but not, You know, what I've seen in education, and you probably know that, is when you have a project and then you have certain goals, and those goals are like, they even call it like deliverables, right? And you end up with tons of documents explaining that the objective was met. And then in small letters like, yeah, but the curriculum wasn't implemented because, no. So tons of documents. And then the third one is we value more customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Meaning, this one is the crucial one. This is the second principle as well. Says, who knows what and why has to collaborate with who knows how daily. 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 So who knows what and why? I have the vision, I know why, I can explain. I know big chunks of it, I know how to define it. But there's a person that knows how to make it, because it's technical, because you need some specific knowledge, or a group of people that know how to make it. They have to collaborate daily in fast-changing industries. Maybe in education it's not daily, but they have to collaborate regularly in short iterations. I worked for a political campaign because they wanted to make it super efficient. They had some 10 days, and it wasn't daily, it was hourly. Because it depends on how fast it is. If I get 7 journalists calling me at the same time, I mean the chef of the campaign, with 5 phones, you know, it can't be daily. So you make these safety stops to integrate, and you go on, and you make a safety stop, you integrate, and you go on. But while you are going on, nothing, absolutely nothing should stop you. Even if you make a total waste, because it's just an hour, it's just a day. We don't want people to multitask. We don't want people to, now I have this idea, I go there and I prevent you from doing what you planned to do for a day. So that's Agile, that's the collaboration. Once we commit, once we say this is what we are doing, no one can interrupt that. But we don't commit for 5 years, we find some sweet spot there for hour, day, 2 days, week, 2 weeks. 2 weeks would be a month maybe in some slower industries, but not more than that. And then the last one is the main one, like the crown of everything, though it's the last one, responding to change over following a plan. So we value more being able to respond to change than to follow a strict plan. And this is evolutionary. I mean, you know, if we are adaptable as systems and people in the system, then we survive. But why we behaved like this? That's the question. Because we behaved for a long period of time like we should follow a plan. Why, if it's not evolutionary? These 2 examples show, for example, the adaptation of Agile Manifesto to education. This one is mine for a project I coordinated. It was a national project with, I don't know how many, 5 curricula. We had to develop 5 curricula, different curricula. And 2 of them never ever before existed in Serbia in interpretation and translation. We didn't have any good practice, any best practice, anything. We just needed to get information from abroad, and we didn't have resources. And the 3 of them were like more known terrain, but still not known as much as you would love to. So I changed it into individuals and interactions over processes and tool, no change. It's about people. Successful curriculum implementation over comprehensive documentation. Just I want to have my curriculum. I want to have students in it and people teaching. And I need to have that now. So let's start. Let's start making it. Before we make it all in documentation, let's go with low fidelity things in real life, in production. Institutional collaboration over contract negotiation. Guess what? I never ever allowed contract to be signed. It was 18 institutions, 18, from 6 different countries, 10 of them educational, 4 or 5 chambers of commerce, and 3 from government, including ministry, integration office, and employment service. We never signed the contract, interinstitutional contract. It was never ever signed. Because if you go there, what you build actually is not trust. It's not trusting. And then if you go there, what you do at the beginning of a project, you make people think about how to protect themselves on things they don't even know how to plan. How can I say, I will give you this much if I don't know? It means that I will lie. And it means that you will accept something which is unpredictable. Why we are behaving like that? It's not rational, and we are academics. So let's say being able of teaching people, how to think rationally. And so we never signed the contract, and it worked well. Of course, you have culture as a main issue there. I'll explain that as well, but it worked. Then responding to change or following a plan, and that's it. So I didn't touch much. And you have another one that says, we value more teachers and students over administration and infrastructure. We value more competence and collaboration over compliance and competition. Employability and marketability over syllables and marks. That one is funny, marks. Like grading is endangered species now. Because grading, I don't know what's going on with grading, but grading will have to stop. Most probably, and I will explain. I had problems with grading because I don't teach so that I can grade. I teach so that I can prove that they know. And when I teach, they all know. They end up by, they know. They always. So they know how to make a bicycle, they know how to write a Wikipedia article, and the acceptance criteria are there, and they're met. So what is the grade? And then attitude and learning skills over attitude and formal degree, and so on. So you can adapt it to your own environment, to your own situation. And talking about culture and values, so if I say that Agile is values and principles, what I'm saying in terms of the broader organizational composition is that without that I can't have results. That's what I'm saying. So what you see here is something used in to show how the organizations work. Doesn't matter what the organization is, because normally you talk about structure and then you talk about culture. Previously we talked only about structure. That's why we had these org charts with there's a strategy level, like big company vision level, then you have mission, then mission goes into big objectives, then objectives into strategic objectives, and then you create your action plans, and then you say, okay, then we have results. Well, let me tell you, first of all, this doesn't work. You can have it if you have autocratic institutions, and you can have it if you have probably, where it makes really sense, probably is military and, some institutions when you need to know who responds to whom. And but if you want innovation, if you're an organization that wants innovation, this doesn't work. I mean, it's proven it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You don't have even to know why, but it doesn't work. Well, my guess would be, and not only mine, that this is too long, first of all. It's just too long. It takes a long time. Because if you need experts there with a goodwill, they really want to do a good job. To create vision, it takes time. And if you created the whole vision, then you go into mission, then you create the whole mission, and then you have another set of people going from there creating precise, good, well-thought organizational objectives. And then another set of people, strategic objectives that you meet. So it takes time. If you make perfect at each level, and you want to make it good, when you come to the action plans, this might have changed. So it's too slow.
It sounds familiar.
Yes, quite familiar.
It's just slow. And then what else happens? Not only slow, but people from different knowledge And the knowledge is not specific anymore, because today we don't learn from the same books. People are super different. They know all sorts of things. My students, I don't even try to teach anymore. Because if I talk about Cervantes, they know where his wife is, what is the name of, I don't know. It depends on their interests. I don't know what the name of Cervantes' wife. I don't care. But they do. And they do. They're kids. It's funny, you know. He had a wife, and she was beautiful, and or she was ugly, or, you know. It's just like, that's how they are. And so what you need here is to slice this. Not sequentially, as with the medical doctors, but slicing this. And I'll explain soon on the flip chart what I mean by that exactly. But it's not enough. Even if you do slicing, if you don't have people with a proper culture, you won't succeed. You really won't. Values, this scheme is from a company called Human Synergistics. They have it like that, like values, principles, and then behavioral styles. And I think Agile is missing this part. Because they do describe values, they do describe principles, but they don't have this third level of specification. And this is really useful. So I used to explain it by using the chart of, this one. Have you seen this? It's searchable on the internet. If you search the circumplex, you'll find it. The company is Human Synergistics. They created it, so it's their property. And this is like the main, it's interactive. So if you go at their webpage, you can interact with it, and it's explained well. What they do, they measure culture. They measure organizational culture. They know how to help you to change it and stuff like that. But my point there is not that. It's the behavior styles. So they defined, and this is not the only map, by the way. There is a lot of those maps, like many, based on psychology researches. But this one, for me, is the best one. People understand it like this. So they said, okay, there are three groups of behavior styles. Two of them are defensive. One is constructive. The defensive ones means that people defend themselves from something. And they can do it in two ways. One is by passively, just, you know. And the other one is aggressively, by action. So we have two. Passive defensive and aggressive defensive, both of them defensive. And the passive styles are avoidance. Like I don't take any initiative. I avoid, if you tell me something, I pretend I don't hear, and you avoid any sort of behavior. So that's avoidance. That one is really the bad one, because the person basically wants to disappear. Dependent, meaning that you depend on someone and you do something if someone else does it, or if there's appropriate decision and stuff like that. Conventional is if it's written, okay. I don't trust anyone, just if it's written. And that's the convention. If you have the convention and that's it. If not, sorry, not written. And approval. So I do if it's approved. If not, I don't do it. So people protect themselves from something. Normally they protect themselves from this. And these protect themselves from something else, I will tell you. So if you look here, you have security needs. All the behaviors below the middle of the circle tend to keep the company in status quo, or the organization, or whatever system is. And if the number of people with these cultures is higher than the number of people with different cultures, then the company will maintain the status quo. It will never, ever go into satisfaction needs. Never. So whatever structure you have, whatever values you have. Then the aggressive defensive styles, the most dangerous one is oppositional. The style says like this. I criticize, I criticize, I criticize, I criticize. Even if I say something, I go and criticize and criticize. Even if it is approved, I criticize, I criticize, and I criticize, and I always criticize. And if I need to come up with a solution, sometimes I do, but I criticize again. And sometimes do you know that behavior? I was shocked when I learned it, and it was 15 years ago, not so far ago. And the other one is like, okay, what is the solution? And they would say, oh. Now, my point was is to say it's enough from me. Now you go and find the solution. So it's really dangerous. And next to it is power. It is as it is because I say it. That's it. That's the style. Competitive is okay, but if it's not at the edge, like if you have a certain level of competitiveness, it's okay, because it's good to see what other people do and want to be better, to achieve more, and you know. And the perfectionistic is okay as well, because you want excellence, you want to go into deeper details, but not if it's on the edge. Then it's aggressive. Then people don't want to work with you, because you always go and look for details and you never see the big picture. So. And now if you look at this at the left and the right, the task orientation part of the circle is aggressive. So people that are aggressive, they're mostly task oriented. They're scared of other people. That's what scares them. And it's really like this. I think I have value if I produce value, if I make people value me. So that's how they see their own value. So if I make myself important, they will think I'm important, so that's... But it's insecurity, basically. It's always insecurity. Aggressiveness equals insecurity, not in terms of task or knowledge or perfection, but people. And that's why all the CEOs have this... They're task-oriented. They're excellent in achieving goals. But they're like, most of the time, how do you say that? Slave masters. They don't care about people. Have you seen that? I've seen it in a really, really awful setting. When you have someone that is super task-oriented, knows a lot, has vision, is competitive, is perfect, but people. And it's not psychopath. So there are no signs of psychopathy, but it's just like... Okay, and then when we are done with that, so what happens with, if you have this for sure. Sometimes you can have this one like more exaggerated, and then there's a war battle there. Okay, then we have this constructive. So this one is the one that we really want to, and we talk about achievement, we talk about self-actualization, humanistic encouraging behavior, like goodwill behavior, and affiliative. Even if I know that someone is lying, I'll be encouraging. That's the thing. So to make it simple. Because people lie because, I won't think, you liar, and then become aggressive. Because it means that I'm scared. Achievement says like this. Whenever something happens, I take my time. Because I always have some time. It's not like the fire. Because if there's fire, everyone will stand up and go for a solution. People don't have to talk. They go. And if it's less than that, then I always have time. I take my time. I analyze the problem in that time by priority. I just go quickly through it. Then I see what are the real options. I choose one to my best knowledge. And I go steadily towards achieving it. And the real options should be challenging ones. Not something easy, but not something which is unattainable. So you should set up real challenges. And then if something happens in my way of steadily going towards achievement, what do? I take my time, I analyze, I set up real options, I choose one, and I go steadily. So that's the behavior. That's the achievement. Otherwise, you enter into the blame culture. You say, it's not me. It's not on my side, and the boat is, it's not on your side of the boat, but the boat is sinking, so you might want to, help there. Now, in the organizations, what do you think what happens when achievers work in organizations with aggressive culture or defensive culture?
They go.
They leave. They leave. If for some reason, which is the security needs reason, they can't leave, where do they go? They change the style, they don't behave constructively, and you get awful oppositioners because they feel frustrated. And they know, but they won't help anymore, they just criticize. So that's how you get there. That's how you get the society or the culture of opposition. With the long-term unsuccessful societies, people, everyone would be oppositional. And, or they go into avoidance, but normally here. What's the time? Okay, cool. Very good. We have up to 12:30, right? Yeah. Do you have time? Can we prolong it? No. It's okay?
It's okay.
Yes.
Anyone that has to leave? You have to leave. Okay, let's do it quickly then.
You can continue.
I'll go through slides and then I will, okay. Okay. If you forget about the culture, then you have structure guiding you. Even if the structure is creative, if it is a strong structure, it will bend you. You can't be, you can't communicate. You need sort of a flexible, all-pervasive communication. So you don't want these strict lines. You need a light structure nowadays, not these strong structures. Because you end up like this. You think you're creative, but actually, you don't communicate. And, so let's talk about this planning and empiricism and commitment. There is this perfect saying of, they say it's Japanese saying, vision without action is a daydream, and action without vision is a nightmare. And this makes perfect sense today, because you know why? Because as I explained, the time needs to be short between vision and action, because the changes are like, they stay in your way. So you have to ask yourself, if what I'm doing today, how it reflects on my vision, and do I have a vision to guide my steps? So nowadays it's necessary more than ever. It was always necessary, but nowadays it's really like you should keep in close touch the dance between the steps that I do today and the vision it takes me to. So I might have my plan for today, but I need to know that what I do today takes me to some image of myself in a year time, in a month time, and that's the plan I make. If I don't have that, what I have, which is value-driven, this is value-driven life, value-driven development, value-driven education. Then I have plan-driven, which is bad, because I can't have dreams. I can't have desires. I can't change, actually. Or I have deal-driven. I do what my client says. I do what my system says. I do what my regulation says. And I never, ever take initiative to change that. And then you are law soldiers. People make law. So in order to make some changes, you can take initiatives. You can plan to join the group of people that are, and make strategic steps towards it. as an institution, educational institution, you can say, okay, I'm university, and if I'm proactive, I think this part of the law should be changed. Then I go, I send my people there, I try to convince people to, you have action then. If you want to keep the dance tight between vision and small steps, then you need these loops. These are short production iteration loops. When I say production, I mean every loop, short one, ends up with something valuable and showable, something that has value. So I plan, short, I make it, I do what I planned. Then I see what is the result. It can be something that's a product, but it can be, I don't know, I made someone happy, I don't know. I check that, did I succeed? I go back, so I check that, I go back to an action. I plan, and these are the loops. So we have these double learning loops, you know them all. Like you plan, you do, you check, and then you go back. You learn from there. So it's inspect and adapt mentality. And it's empirical. It's called Deming cycle, I guess. It's Deming that made it, but not much more than that. And then you commit to doing things in the last responsible moment. Since you can't plan up front, like a super precise action, then you commit only when you're absolutely sure that there are no risks, that you can really just go and do it. And whatever you do before that is you plan how to get into the situation of committing safely. And I always find fun in the Casablanca movie in general. So my favorite song is from there. And finally, what it says is this day and age we're living in gives cause for apprehension with speed and new invention and things like four dimension. So just like describing the age we are living in. And it was like many years ago. And the slide, I never make plans that far ahead. It's perfect. Good to remember the, yeah. Okay, now here I mentioned something important, which is the loop and the learning from what I created and then going back. And now I want to explain this. Improvisation is all right. So, let's say that you have to develop a new course. Now, let's say you have a professor coming to you and saying, well, I have this course in humanities, and I want to introduce changes there, and you want him to use the Agile method, right? And the changes, like the course is done. Now we have to reshape it. The first question you have to ask your professor is why? Why do you want to introduce changes? What is the new vision for your how do you call it, course? So let's start here. When the teacher comes to you, he's here actually. There is a whole product made perfectly clear. Let me show the slide, it will be much easier. Look at the Mona Lisa. So let's say that the subject, the course, the teacher wants to change is the Mona Lisa, right? So it's done, it has all its parts, it's perfectly clear. So he comes to you here and he says, I want to change it. And then you talk and you say, why? What is the vision? And then he gives you the vision here. And then he gives you some bigger topics he would like to change. And then from there, that teacher is not enough anymore. He's not enough anymore. Because he needs now expertise from different, because you want to make it complex. You want complexity. You don't want to make it simple. That's what I want to explain now. Then other people come in, let's say tutors or consultants, you have those, and they help with what? They take the first topic here, the first one. If we said that's the main one, the most valuable one, and they split it into smaller parts, smaller topics. From there, they take just the two of these, like the most appropriate one, most important one, and they plan it. No, let me make it bigger, like here. So big topics, people working on splitting those big topics into smaller ones, and another group of people, or the same people, doesn't matter, take the first one or the second one, and they make it really small tasks, like small tasks, small actionable steps. This is like an ongoing process all the time. Once you get here, everything needs to be absolutely clear. And here is where the flow starts, the delivery. You just deliver the most important thing. And you do it in 2 weeks' time or in a week time. While you are delivering it, there is this group of people making it. So they go and they cook it all the time. And they, how do you call it, distillation? So you take the part that is really valuable, you get agreement on that it's really important, that's the thing we're gonna change, and then you start working on it, but still you go and you cook your thing, and people delivering results. Once you are here, let's say this is a week time, you have something that you can use to see if it works with your students, with test cases. You can even put it live into production, into the real course, and see if it works. And then you go back. That's slicing. So you don't go first for, we make all the main topics, then we split it, then we write learning outcomes, then we describe learning outcomes, and then we go into implementation with the whole course. And what if it's not working? So you want to slice it. And like with the Mona Lisa, it's really hard to redo the Mona Lisa. It's much easier to make it. So new course is easier because there's nothing that no constraints. You can make it from the scratch. You have an idea, woman in pastoral setting, and you start with some shades. Then you can move shades. Then you can add color. You can change color. Now, if you get here, you can't change much. That's done. I mean, you can, but it will be expensive, right? Now, if you want here to move the hand of Mona Lisa, you won't be able. But here, probably yes. Even here. Because layers are redoable. What happens here? Once you did the Mona Lisa, now you have to redo it. Let me give you just one simple answer. Vision. You have to reshade it again, all over. You can't go and change only this, because it's a complex system. If you do that, you will just pretending, avoiding to see that it will have consequences in all the other parts. So you have to think about, what do I want with my new, with the changes of my course? What is the vision? Did values changes, principles? Is there any substantial topic that asks for more complexity? You have to think about the vision. What is the mission? Maybe the mission changed. Maybe it's not enough anymore to talk about digital marketing. Now maybe we have to put something else in. So there's new value. I have to think about values. And then I go into making it. So I put new layers over what I already did. That's what you do with everything. Course, teaching, what students produce during their classroom. Like my students, they make Wikipedia articles. The same thing. When they make it and when they remake it. Because I have one generation of students making it and the other one remaking it. And it's fun. And they do that. They have to think about the whole all the time.
And then the idea is not so much taking a small piece, going back to the curriculum example, taking a piece and working on it a lot to have it finally, to have something perfectly finished, but working on the whole thing, but
distilling small parts.
Layers.
Exactly. Absolutely. So it's not only iterative, it's incremental in terms you increment the whole thing. So you make the whole thing. So you don't make just one part. You try to keep the structure all the time. You try to keep all the elements all the time. That's why it's complex. That's why you have to slice it. It has to have vision, mission, goal, learning outcome, and the small step in it already. So one thing I haven't said is it's hard. It's hard. I want to show you another slide now that I talk about that. This one. So that's the process. So imagine here is the vision. So you have to go and slice it all the time. So once you are here, this is for 2 weeks' time. This is the quantity for 2 weeks' time. And you use it and you see if it's tasty, do you need to add something? And you go back with information. But it's all the time. Probably here you will stop. This is like longer, you know, visions are, you don't have to go back to the vision. You set up the vision and it stays there for a while. But you can't lose it from your sight. You have to have it there. And you will probably go here. You know, not the big thing, but the first smaller thing after the big thing. And this is the thing you do. Elaborate, you prioritize, you decompose, you refine, you estimate. You have to estimate how big this is. And we can go into detail today and tomorrow if you want to talk more. But let me show you now some examples. Okay, this is important. So the first thing you need to know when you plan anything is what is the situation you find yourself in. And is it order, something that is predictable? When I say predictable, I mean I can sense something, I can categorize it, I just can map it already, and then I can respond to it. So it's really simple. Still ordered, but not that simple, is when I can sense it. I have to analyze it a bit because it's the cause and the consequences are not so self-evident. But by analysis, I get there. So I can establish direct relationships. That's order. When I'm in order, it means that the pieces I produce are small enough. And this is the slide with the onion, the last piece. That's the last one. Everything else is here or here. So complex means I don't know what is when I activate something, when there's a cause, I don't know what the consequence is going to be. There's no way to find out, not by analysis, nor by categorizing. So I have to check. I probe. It's not still live. I'm safe because I can test it just, you know. I don't have to go live to do that. Here I have. And I can get some response, some feedback, and then formulate my response to that. So that's how I learn actually what are the causes and the consequences of a complex system. So I have to probe. And most of the time when you create something new, you are here and you want to be there. But in order to make it really, to deliver it, to make it actionable, executable, you want to transfer it from complex to complicated. And if you look here, this is complex. Here is complicated. And here is the flow. Here you can use those to do doing done. But not here, just here. And chaotic is when you have to act. You just act because there's chaos all around you, fires and stuff, so you don't think, you act. And the main aim here is to stop the chaos. So you don't want to keep it. You act because you want to make it, or at least complex, The danger is when you are you're simplifying things. When it's too simple, then you fall over the cliff into chaos. And that's it's called Canavian model. Canavian model. It's written like this. I think it's a Welsh word. What time is it? Okay. I need maybe 10 more minutes. Is it okay? Huh? Okay. So I said all the concepts, but now I want to go into details. So for example, if you look at Agile and then you say, let me see, what is the one thing I really need to explain in Agile? It would be integration, as I already did. This is a funny example. It was like 15 days ago that I used the slide for some other presentation, so I put it here, where there was a developer from Google complaining about Scrum practices, Agile practices, like it's a nonsense. And the title says that. Why do some developers at strong companies like Google consider Agile development as a nonsense? And the answer got written by Jeff Sutherland. He's the founder of one of the main Agile methodologies, which is Scrum. And what he says is amazing. As for Google, as long as they have one code branch for 15,000 developers and deploy multiple times a day for multiple products, they are Agile as far as I'm concerned. Because what they manage is to integrate everything they do at the lower level of infrastructure. So that's Agile for him. And I think that's what we're talking about actually. Complexity asks for integrations. And we need to learn how to communicate. We need to learn how to understand professions, languages, people, culture, not to be oppositional, but to be, collaborating achievers. These are the old cultures, like from department to department to department to department. This is ideal, like this is in theory, right? But what really happens at the end is look for whom to blame.
But integration takes time, so.
Yeah, it's really complicated. You know, when you do the onion,
Continuously, then you have to invest.
it's much more productive than this.
Yeah.
Much more productive. What is complicated, it's really, it's painful because we are not used to it. It's hard for us to talk with people, to get to the consensus. It's really extremely hard. It's like when cutting the onion, you cry. So there's no help there. You know, when teams that I work with, they start complaining about like, wow, this is hard. Then I say, yeah, use your brain. Well, you're not perfect still, to use your brain and not get tired. So, but you can be at least happy that you're using your brain. I mean, and this is like the collaboration. When they work all together, so there's no one to blame actually, because it's a team to blame. And I'll go to metaphor. We explained this. Okay, you know that, I guess. Do you know the paradigm? I think psychologists use it to show how the paradigm shifts works. So the main point here is that you have a thing with same set of elements. So it's same set of elements, the one picture, right? And if you map it on something as duck, you will see duck. If you map it at something as rabbit, you'll see rabbit. But actually we need to map it back to something that we already know in order to interpret it. And we will always do that. We will always try to make something unknown to transfer it to something known. We want to make sense that we are pattern-seeking animals. So, but actually, this is not a duck. This is not a rabbit. This is something, whatever, something whatever, and it's spooky. We don't like it because it's new. It's monstrous. Yeah. That's how we live when something huge changes in our humanity, which is going on now. And that's why people get really, really resilient. Like they don't like changes. That awful, technology will ruin our kids. We will end up nowhere. We are going into Armageddon. That's of course not true. It's not true. We are not. There's something new going on, and it's a new paradigm of the world we live in. And we are fortunate enough to live the change. Because if we had lived in 19th century. Life would be just a boring thing and nothing compared to what we live now. So my point is this, that we had, I lost one of those. This one is the first one. This one is the second change paradigm we live, the humanity goes through. The first one was when we switched from orality to literacy. It was in the 15th century, more or less, 14th, 15th. I mean, at least the Western civilization. And then the second one is now, end of 20th century, the beginning of the 21st. What happened here actually is what happened to the information. This is the most important suspect. We used to produce information orally and to fix it orally and to transmit it orally. So I can invent it by inventing it in my head or saying it. You can hear it and try to fix it. You won't succeed to fix it accurately because there's no such a thing in our cultures. There's no accuracy of information. You can make it accurate only if you fix it externally, because memory can't do that. We are not good enough at that. And people would run and die to get the information to where the information was really needed. And this is the marathon, right? The guy that died. Okay, and the world was one global thing. There was just one science. You know which one? We used philosophy, right? Just one science. And thinkers, there were thinkers. They would think about the big, visible or not so visible cause and consequences. And then they would say that orally to other people, like Aristotle would walk with people and talk about his findings. What changed when we got to the publishing, when we got the print, information still super valuable, but less valuable, because now you can bring it to different people quicker, and you can fix it. So you can go back to it. So it won't evaporate. It won't. I can imagine that people got really happy with that they can put it someplace, they go back and it's there. They don't have to suffer, to remember it, to put a rhythm there, like the poetry. Poetry has rhythm because we want to remember. That's why it has rhythm. And then you would have people that have access to information, practically to all the possible information at those times, because it was not much. Nowadays it's like too much. And they would teach. So these are the people, they don't have access to information, they don't know the information, and there's a person that knows and has and teaches. Two things happened. One of them is we were able finally to relax and go deeper into understanding the world. Because we can gather information, put it, fix it someplace, and go for more. It won't disappear, it won't evaporate. So we made out of a whole something that was reduced. So that we went into disciplines and professions and departments and all sorts of silos. And it was natural and it was good. Because that's how we understood the world, each single simple phenomena. What we forgot is how to communicate and to make it again one whole thing that makes sense. Luckily enough, we got this technology that made us go out of our silos and talk again. So, look, we decomposed everything in the print era. Everything was like, I think that's really like genius thing. So we are really intelligent, human species. And now we got here. So it's digitacy. Technology, what does it mean for information? Information from super valuable became cheap. You don't want it. You want to get rid of it. It's too much. Notifications, all of sorts. It's real-time information. Real-time information. So what we wanted actually when we were in the oral culture was to have real-time information. Then we had newspapers and we wanted to be informed. Now we are like over-informed. We don't want to be informed anymore. We want something else. So information, the function of information will change. That's the huge mindset. We don't know yet, but it will change. We will reinvent information as such. I know what I'm saying is strange, but information will lose the accuracy. It's losing it. It started losing it with Wikipedia. It started losing it with Twitter. And roles are changing. people can do whatever they want. I mean, Twitter, it's a newspaper. If you see it better, it's a newspaper. But the role of the new journalist changed. Everyone can, and it's a real-time news. You can document it. You have video now. Newspapers, like the traditional ones, take Twitter tweets and put it in there. So it's totally flipped. It's more specific to education. Competition and collaboration. Sedentary. Kids sit in their chairs. Discipline. And now it's dynamic. Kids can, I mean, not yet. And yeah, okay, far beyond. But there are some good examples. Standardized testing. It will stop existing. Because people are so different now. Information is the combination of information you as an individual can have. Mine, yours, totally different. How can you standardize testing? What do you test, by the way? What is the information? And it's customizable. So you have to see what is the necessary thing for the person, given the knowledge the person has, given the skills the person has, and what is the aim, what is the vision for that person. So that's what you test. Because you want to help the person to get what the person wants to get. Not because you want to be, that's because I say and you know and I told you're knowledgeable. It will stop. Push and pull, you don't have to push people anymore. They go and they get it. New generations, I don't know if you have experience with the new generations. They normally work, they're like, they don't even have the secondary schools. They go out, they drop off schooling. They work in gaming companies, a lot of them. You say something, I say something. They listen, they take it away, and they do whatever they want with it. That's how they behave. They just gather some information, they just understand something. That's enough. They prioritized. They just grab it and they go and you don't mess there. Because if you go there to check, it's like, wow, okay, give me more, don't check. Give me more. But really, it's like that. It's really like that. Then we talk about wisdom of elders. There's no such a thing anymore. You can have, of course, if you lived longer, you know more. Because you lived longer, you had more experience. But let's call it that way. It's not like all the knowledge possible of the hair, the white hairs, because kids know more. They know different set of combination of information. And nostrification and fair recognition, this is really interesting. You know that we used to nostrify our diplomas, like in the previous education systems. Everything needed to be exactly the same. If I studied in the States and I want my nostrification in Spain, then it had to be exactly the same in order to get it nostrified, or some small differences, or then I have to go to do exams in order to get nostrified. Nowadays, we talk about recognition, but it's like, it's there. It's there. And moreover, we talk about fair recognition. You can't even talk about recognition anymore. Because the parts are so different, then you just want to be fair. To say, okay, the amount of information and the skills here is more or less the thing here, so let's be fair. And I guess recognition won't be necessary anymore. It's just like the skills you have. And the certification, the diplomas, they just contain information, which is meta-information of your skills. You can show your skills. There's no need. And let's talk about MOOCs and how people go there and why they go there and what they learn there. So this is all Agile. Sequential linear, it's modular now. Single and mono, it's multi and interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. You don't have a single discipline anymore. In business, they used to call it waterfall. You know that from, if you are in software development, it means waterfall, why? Because first you discuss everything, then you design everything, then you develop everything, then you test everything, then you say, well, where is the mistake? And in education, we call it EDI model, which is pretty much the same.
It's so cool. My master thesis 6 months ago was adding she knows, and it was so cool.
But I mean, that's it. And then you use spreadsheets and blah, blah, blah. And here you have flow efficiency that we already explained, but you don't use anymore this unbearable thing called spreadsheet because you can't understand there anything. It's just like everything is the same. And it's so abstract that it's a pity to visualize it. Because when you visualize it, you want to see elements of it clearly separated. That's how the human brain works. So everything else is abstract. It's just like you tell me everything. It's just then tell me. There's no need to write it down. And that's why you use Kanban. That's why you use, it's a board, I'll explain, to visualize the work in progress, to visualize that. How you go from the big idea into a small step and to follow the progress. That's what you want. To see, to keep the dance close, tight. Okay? So in production, the paradigm is called lean, and it's the delivery mode, this. Oops. So there's nothing else there. There's no discovery here. So they already made prototype of their car, they know how they want it, they designed it, they discovered it. Now they go into lean production because they want to make sure that the system is efficient. They just follow the process, and there is one thing they do there. They visualize it, and they limit the work in progress. They say, I don't want to work on 10 things at a time because I can just work at one. So let's recognize that. They limit that. And then this is Kanban, like super simple version of it, but it can become this. And this is Disney. They use it for their development of the products, actually, not only the development of the code, when they to make ideas. Hints, fun something and stuff. Menace in Venice, glass empty, level of the week, blah, blah, so ideas. And they gather in front of that board. They discuss everything every day, 15 minutes. There's a structure of discussion, so you can't go and talk about your life. Oh yeah, academics, you know, they do that. So sometimes it's hard. But then at the end, there's done, and you know that you are done, and it's all visual. These are my boards, for example. This is at the Ministry of Education, and what I did here, I merged two, let's say, one unconference thing that I visualized for brainstorming, like this. So I have the discovery part there as well. I visualized it, and the delivery part. So the discovery part is this, and that one is the delivery part. Why this discovery? Because here we are 15 people there. We all delegate our topics that we would like to discuss and do something about it. For example, I want more sport in education. I think we should suggest law changes in terms to put more sport into education, for example. So I go there to the board. It's online. I delegate, I write my topic. I explain it according to some rules. So I can't go forever explaining it. There's a user story, I have to explain it well, there's blah, blah, blah. Then when everyone does that. When we meet, and we meet in regular intervals, like we keep the rhythm, every first Tuesday in a month, we discuss it, and there is an acceptance criteria. First of all, we have to prioritize. What do we discuss, what we don't? Then we have to see if it's clear. Maybe it needs more clarification. If it's clear enough, then we can go further on into writing acceptance criteria and seeing if we can go into some action. If we can, then we consider it discussed. It goes into discussed lane. And then the delivery starts. If we can't, then we go for more clarification. And then we ask people to clarify it better, to see what's possible, what's not, and stuff like that. So that's the discovery part. And once in to do, then we just go and do it. Here, everything is clear. We have checklists. Like if it's an event, there's a checklist and you go by it and you do it. If it is a round table, you do that. Stuff like that. So from here to there, everything is super clear. If something happens, because it can happen, then you go back here, you write it down, you stop the progress, and you discuss it, and then, so achievement. This is the board I used for the project I coordinated. It was like the 18 institutions I mentioned, 4 years project. And these are the boards for daily management, for website and online behaviors, and for training, and for so many complex activities with more than 300 people. And I can assure you, no email was exchanged ever. Never, ever. Only at the beginning, when people were insisting on it, because people don't like to be transparent. It's scary. And then if you introduce transparency, you can be absolutely sure that it's the main power to culture of achievement. Because then what happens, for example, they write an email to complain. Or to say, you know what, I don't want to go there because I don't want everyone to see this, but I just wanted to tell you, but really, I just wanted to tell you that there is something that we should pay attention to, and then I would say, listen, if you don't think this is something valuable for everyone, just, I don't care. I just don't care. It's not a personal conversation, we can't be friends, we are not friends. We are not friends. We are there to do some job which has its values. Just go there and write it. And if you don't, then I will consider it done. It's just like solved, and that's not important. And normally they wouldn't. They wouldn't go and write an email. And people would ask me, yeah, but then they would be unhappy and unsatisfied. No. Once I met one of these people in the corridor, and she said, like, you know what? There's a thing I like about you. It's not that you are a mother to some and a stepmother to some other people. You're a stepmother to everyone. Because she learned that I did the same thing to another person, and that I did the same thing to another. So there was a principle behind. So when they get the principle, they learn to appreciate it, because it's dignifying. It's for you, but for everyone else. This is like for teaching Agile to my students. So I use Agile board, Kanban board, to teach them how to be Agile. And how to form the Scrum teams, what is the sprint planning, what is the elements of the methodology, doesn't matter so much. And then, for example, this is this year board for my Spanish literature classroom. So I have it by weeks. I have, I'll show you let me show you the real one, because this is the print screen. Can I do that?
What about your experience with training?
I like it for students, I like it for teaching, but I don't like it for companies. I don't like it for, too simple. One thing I missed there, which is crucial for Kanban, is the swim lanes. Yeah. Is to split this, because it's only columns. You don't have rows. But the thing I like about it, it's really tactile. You can. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. It's. I like. It's quick.
And for companies, what do you recommend?
It depends on what the company is. Yeah, because if it is the
Like the UOC? Like the UOC, yes.
There's the one I love a lot, and I use it personally. I will show it to you. Oh, sorry. This one is the actual board. So we have it by weeks. So in a week, for example, I could have, this is the second semester, and let me see, for example, this one. So you have everything there. You have, first of all, the title. So what is, I use weeks because then I can put everything in a container, I can put materials, resources, communication, everything around the topic. And we have description, if it's necessary, you can edit it. And this I really appreciate, because we can talk here. So we can, and they get notifications both on iPad or iPhone, iOS or Android. and it works really well. The application is really good done, and you have members. You can address them like easily. All my students are here, and you have checklists. If you have some subtasks, they can create them. So they are administrators. All of them are administrators. And when people ask me like, aren't you afraid that they will, spoil something? I really start laughing. Like, I'm afraid that you will spoil something, not my students. And even if they, I'm teaching them to become more excellent. And if they can't make mistakes, how they're going to become more excellent? Like, I don't get the point. Of course they will make mistakes. And I want them to make mistakes. And then we will explain, and it's redoable. You are online. I mean, just undo. Not a problem. And attachments. So you can attach whatever. Videos, it shows videos nicely, and pictures and images. And you can copy and subscribe. And what I like the best is vote. Because sometimes you want them to tell you quickly that they've seen the information. And it's just a click away. They vote, and I know that I've seen it. And stuff like that. Okay, so that's the board. And we are close to an end. I wanted to explain just Scrum in a couple of sentences and to show you some more pictures of my students. So these are, this is the Scrum process, looks complicated, but it's really not. There's a person responsible for a vision that defines the product, the course, the tarea, so whatever. Then there's a person that takes care of a process. Everyone does whatever needed, and people are okay, removes obstacles. And a team of people deciding on how to do something. So a person that says what and why, a team of people that say how, and the person that takes care of a process, and people themselves. That's the whole thing. So they meet at the beginning. The product owner is the product owner, meets with the team. They discuss it. They see if it's clear, if it's big, too big. They put it smaller. So it's a whole meeting dedicated to that. Then they go into development. They make it. At the end, they meet again. They show what they produced. They discuss it. They introduce changes in the next loop, and they go into something super valuable, which is called retrospective meetings, where the team itself, my students, I don't go there. They discuss what did they do well, what was wrong, and if there's anything they would love to introduce that they didn't do before. So, and they make a culture backlog. So they talk about themselves. They don't talk about the product anymore. How to change the behavior, do they need some knowledge, how to improve themselves, what is the problem in communication, and they make a backlog, they make a plan of things they're gonna change in the next iteration. So you have a product backlog and a culture backlog at the same time. And why Scrum, everyone asks. This is a metaphor. This is why Scrum. So Scrum is a simple structure that I explained that is good for values and principles of Agile, because it's really helpful. It helps maintain them high. In '86, two guys from Toyota, I will never ever remember those names, said something like, okay, we want the new production game development, the new. And they said, if you imagine that what we want is not the rally race, but Scrum, then you will understand it. So the rally race would be a team of people that don't work as a team. They don't integrate anything, because they are sequential. First runs with the thing, and then the other one, and the other. And if one fails, everyone fails. And it's forbidden to help your partner. You can't go and help. And Scrum is the opposite. Everyone is not around the ball, because they're not. They get ready to fight for the ball. Because they put themselves like this, and then there's a person that puts the ball in, and then the fight starts. And you can help your team member. You can really struggle to fight to get to the ball. So that's, this is sequential then, and that's like a bit playful and creative. It can be hurtful as well. But yeah, I prefer that than this. Because here it's like more it hurts your soul when you fail, and no one can help you. And there you might break something, but exactly. Rhythm is also very important. So there is this exact, strict rhythm that can't be you can't break it, never ever. Because if you do that, you are in danger of not having any structure anymore. So the only structure, the only predictability you have is the rhythm. Everything else is unpredictable. I explained the roles. I want to show you how they change, for example. They started the daily stand-up meetings when they ask themselves how they're doing, like what did they do yesterday? It's the business and development meeting. So that's where the how and why meet every day, 15 minutes. Online or offline, doesn't matter. You organize yourself. It's from 9 to 9:15 every day. We go on Skype and we do our job. This is the typical thing to do. Like what did I do yesterday? What will I do today? And do I have any obstacles? This is precious, for example, for education institutions such as yours, to stop the attrition, to stop the drop-off. Because if you manage to have your teachers and your students do that every day, like for 5 minutes, then you will quick enough in the process get what's wrong. Even if they say, what did they do yesterday? And tomorrow they come and they say something different for the plan for today, you can ask why. So you had a plan for today, and tomorrow you told me that you did something else. So something changed. What changed? Let's see if it's like the rudiment of something that will become bigger as a problem. So this is crucial. I think if there's one ceremony I would love to use in any setting, that's this one. Because it keeps you close to the problem. And it doesn't take much time. It's really time saving. And then, do I have any obstacles? And now, for example, my students, what they do is, what is the progress? Like they ask themselves if they're progressing towards the goal. They change it. I didn't change it. They do it. They suggested it. And I say, yeah. Are there any tasks no one is working on, for example? Because they used to forget and they find it really important. I would never ever get to the place where I can suggest this question. It's them. And what are the obstacles? Do we have any obstacles? That's it. And then they produce like a quick or video or a note.
Sorry, Jasmina, we should stop.
Stop. Yeah, that's it. We are done. Just Scrum team. And they'll do some estimations, you see, with backlog. I will discuss this backlog. This is for the workshop tomorrow, so we are done for today. Discuss the backlog with Wikipedia, like how it's done. Yeah, that's it. That's the workshop afterwards. Mm-hmm. No, thanks.
Thank you.